Okay, welcome everyone to this hybrid meeting of the Communities Committee. I would remind all attendees that this meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I've agreed the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. For any members of the public watching, please note that all public committee reports, including details of specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. Do we have any apologies or substitutes?
Thanks, Convener. We have apologies for Councillor Boyd, Councillor Melville and Councillor Shepherd, with Councillor Cheap, Councillor Breeze and Councillor Beattie attending as substitutes.
Thanks, Elaine. Number 2, declarations of interest and statements of transparency. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Just a statement of transparency in relation to item number 7, the amendment to rules and regulations for burial grounds. As I occasionally work as a funeral director, I have an interest with that, but as I don't have any financial interest in, I'll continue to stay within the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? No, that's good. Okay, number 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. Can we submit them for approval as a correct record? Agreed. Thank you. Number 4, appointments of subcommittee and member officer working groups of the Communities Committee. Sarah.
Thank you, Convener. Following the special meetings of Angus Council on 22nd April and 8th of May and the change in membership of this committee, there is now a requirement to make appointments to a number of standing committees and groups. The report details the standing committees, gives an outline of the remit of each of them, refers to the speed limit member officer working group and the Arbroath Harbour Joint Consultative Committee, all of which require appointments to be made. The report requests the appointment of convener and vice convener to each of the committees and groups where indicated, and the report also asks members to note the remit of each of those committees and groups. Happy to take any questions.
Do we have any questions? No? Okay, we'll just... Any comments? No? Okay, we'll just go to the recommendations. I suggest that we take each recommendation in turn. So number 1 is to appoint, in terms of standing orders 32 and 33, elected members to the undernoted subcommittees and, where appropriate, to appoint a convener and vice convener of the subcommittees. So the first one is the executive subcommittee, 3 elected members. Now, it's generally the convener and vice convener of the communities. Could we have someone to propose that and second that? I'm happy to propose that. Second by Councillor McLaren. And for the third position, we're seeking nominations from either the opposition or the non-aligned.
Can I propose Councillor MacDonald?
Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay. The Land Reform Subcommittee, 2 elected members plus members of the ward affected. It's generally again the convener and vice convener of the Communities Committee. Could someone propose that? Proposed by Ross, seconded by Councillor Proctor. And members of the ward, obviously, so that's okay, that'll just go. Okay. The Environmental Appeals Committee, again, 3 elected members, a convener and vice convener of communities. I'll move that. Can I have a seconder, please? Seconded by. What else have we got?
Convener, can I nominate Councillor MacDonald as the 3rd member?
You certainly can. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Whiteside.
Yeah, thank you.
Where are we now? So, to note that the remit of each of these subcommittees is detailed below and that they all act with full delegated powers. And 3, to appoint elected members and, where appropriate, a chairperson to the undernoted working group.
So that's the
Okay, so firstly, we have the Angus Council Speed Limit Strategy Review. The composition is 6 elected members, and the remit is to undertake the review of Angus Council speed limit strategy, considering alignment with the Scottish Government guidance, funding opportunities and national road safety objectives. So 6 members. I think we've got Councillor Scott.
Could I, convener, nominate Councillor Heather Doran? She's not on communities, but she was on the speed review last time, and it was approved as okay because she's not on communities. So I'd like to nominate her, please. Thank you.
So I would propose that the convener
Would need a seconder for Councillor Doran.
could we seconder for Councillor Dorn, Councillor Nicholl. I would go on that myself. I propose myself. Could I have a seconder for that? Councillor Gregg. And I would have Councillor. Would you be happy to go on, Ian? Ian was on already, so could we have a seconder for Serena? Do you want
Can I nominate Councillor MacDonald and Councillor Shepherd for the speed MOG?
Do you have a seconder? Still one space available.
I'm happy to nominate myself if there's still a space going, but well, we were.
Thank you. Where are we now?
Okay, so that takes us to
Right, so the next one is Arbroath Harbour Joint Consultative.
Point of clarification, Chair. Can we just get the list of people that are on it read out? It's just I had queries from constituents about who the new makeup of the group would be, just to be clear.
convener, Councillor Stewart, Councillor McLaren, Councillor MacDonald, Councillor Shepherd and Councillor Duff.
Okay, so it's the Arbroath Harbour Joint Consultative Committee. The committee is asked to appoint and elect members to the Arbroath Harbour Joint Consultative Committee as detailed below. It's to appoint elected members to the Arbroath Harbour Joint Consultative Committee, 6 elected members, minimum 4 from the 2 Arbroath wards and at least 2 members of the community committee, and appoint a chairperson. Do we have nominations?
I'd like to propose myself as chair, thank you.
Do we have a singer? Seconded by Louise.
Can I propose Councillor Shepherd?
We need a proposer for Councillor Nicholl and Councillor Cruikshanks, Councillor Gregg.
I'll second. What votes and also Councillor Shepherd if
Okay.
And it was, okay.
1, 2, 3. We still have space for one more.
If there's a space still, I think I would propose another Arbroath councillor, Councillor Durno.
Thank you. That's right.
I think that's just 5. So we've got councillor Cowdery. That's a, sorry.
Yeah, we only have 5.
Who was on it previously?
Councillor Cowdery, Councillor Nicholl, Councillor Shepherd, Councillor Wan and Councillor Cruikshanks.
Shall we nominate Councillor Wan?
Yeah, could I propose councillor 1, please?
I'll second that.
Okay. Okay, moving on to number 5, Angus Alive Annual Report. That's going to be presented by Maria.
Yeah, so this is the Angus Alive's annual report for 2023-2024, which has been put up by Alison Watson, Acting Director of Legal Procurement. And we've got Colin Knight from Angus Alive to speak to the report.
Great, thanks very much, Marie. Just by way of introduction to our annual report for 2023-24, I just wanted to say that Ian Stevens and myself were joint acting chief executives during this time, with our chief executive, Kirsty Hunter, was on maternity leave over this period. Ian and I found this rewarding and I think interesting would be the other word, and really enjoyed our time in these roles. We believe that the annual report shows that we have much to be proud of across our teams. Just to pick out a few things there, our libraries team launched the Aligned and Mend hub here at the library in Forfar, and also brought a library service to our rural communities through our Libraries on the Move project. The Museum Galleries and Archives service became available to view digitally. We reviewed our opening hours, and we also became dog friendly, which was a popular move in local communities, as well as upgrading lighting again here in Forfar at the Methven Museum and Art Gallery. In our Countryside Adventure, we continue to see our health walk provision grow, along with increased community engagement in our key environmental projects, and of course the reopening of paths at both Mariki and Crombie Country Parks following storm damage, which was a major project to get over the line. We completed 3 gym refurbishments across our sports centres. Those were at Carnoustie Sports Centre, Saltire Sports Centre and Forfar Community Campus. Feedback's been excellent from these, and we finished the year with 9,629 Be Active members, and we continue to see that growing. In our theatre and venues section, we launched our own Theatre Star School to engage young people in performing arts through weekly classes and also performances, which parents and grandparents and others have enjoyed over the year. We brought Bookbug from our libraries into and onto the stage, literally at the theatre, and also launched our own production, Step Into Christmas, at the Reid Hall here in Forfar. Bringing the annual report in this way to the Angus Council Communities Committee is a newly agreed approach, and this will be done on an annual basis from now on. This report goes to our Board of Directors in December each year, so we'll bring this to you as early as possible into the new year. A committee cycle was missed this time around, so we're a wee bit later than we had planned, but I think that will probably be brought forward into February time next year. Finally, I'd just like to say Ian and I are very proud of Angus Alive achievements in 2023-24. We'd like to thank our Board of Directors for trusting us to take the reins while Kirsty was out, and our teams particularly for all the hard work that they've done and continue to deliver the services across Angus. I'm happy to take any questions or comments on the report. And back to yourself. Thanks, Convener.
Thanks, Colin. Do we have any questions? Councillor Cheap.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. And apologies for my camera. I don't know what's wrong with it. I can't seem to get it to work today. Yeah, Colin, just a question you mentioned there about the delivery of this report, and my question was going to be, why is it taken over a year to get it to us? Because I'm really more interested in what's happened in 2024-25 rather than 23-24 now. Can we, I hear what you're saying about a missed meeting opportunity, but can we ensure that really we get this report within about 6 months of the year end? Because really after that, it really takes too long. I mean, we should be able to get these all audited and out much quicker than this. So I'd be expecting it certainly before the calendar year end.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Councillor Cheap. And to give you some reassurance on that front, the dry copy of this report, if you like, which goes into Oscar, goes to our Board of Directors in September. That then gets turned into the glossy version that you'll have seen in terms of the PDF. So that then goes to our board in December. So we would bring that, I believe, for the first Communities Committee meeting is the end of January. So we look to bring it to that meeting at the end of January. I think it's the 27th on the schedule. In between times, we're also now reporting our performance on a 6-monthly basis into Scrutiny and Audit Committee. So that would come quarters 1 and quarter 2 for 24-25 have already been heard by committee. So that's where this one is very much out of sync at the moment in terms of the cycle. And then the full performance report will go to our board at the end of June and will come into you guys on the Scrutiny and Audit, on the 16th of September. So that gets us back into a proper cycle. Because I agree, this is kind of, it's historical information at this moment in time, so we'd prefer that to be more current, which is what we'll do in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener, and thanks to Colin Knight for the report and Angus Alive for the report, which I think is a good read. I just had a question about some of the stats on the Countryside Adventure. That's, I think, page 36, where we're saying the total visitors were 490,000. Now, I am assuming that is the number of visitors we've estimated have come to the park. They're not paying customers. And particularly with the new developments at Maniki, where we have got an attraction which is going to be paid for, it would be useful. Well, I mean, if we looked at that, the number of paid visitors on 490,000, it looked quite a small number, but significantly increased income. So presumably that 490,000 includes an awful lot of dog walkers, I would imagine. So just to sort of context, what are we actually counting here, and is that really a particularly relevant number?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Duff. The figure there, the 494,000, is based on people counters that we have in place across the country parks. There's also car park counters, and there is a calculation, and you're really testing me to remember it right now, but it's based on the number of people on average per car that come into the venues as well. So we also work with the Cairngorms National Park and also Forestry Land Scotland for Glendall, working with a similar calculation in terms of visitor numbers there. So yeah, correct, they're not all paying customers, but it's an important stat for us to keep in terms of general usage of the venues, but we agree moving forward there's other metrics we can use in terms of the Aquasplash particularly now, and to keep a track of that.
Thanks for that. I'm sure when you've got the stats for the Aqua Park, you'll be putting those in separately.
Yes, in short to that, yes, we will.
Councillor Brace.
Yes, thanks, Convener. Just a comment, if you're ready.
Just see if there's any other questions. No? Okay.
Okay, thanks. Just a comment on that. You know, of course, it's really important for Angus Live to know how many people are using which facilities so that they can plan for the future, etc., and keep the thing financially viable. But when it comes to dog walking, I have no doubt whatsoever that people walking dogs, the health benefits, both physical and mental, that brings is probably by far the biggest thing that Angus Alive does. Providing that facility for 490,000 odd people to go and walk their dogs every day for nothing, huge benefit. Not just for their you know, the financial benefits, not directly to Angus Alive or Angus Council, but in terms of the health of the population, must be extraordinary. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Brace. Councillor Whiteside.
Thank you. Just a comment also, and a thanks actually to Colin and his colleagues for inviting all the elected members along to see the new Aquasplash facility, which is marvellous. There was just a handful of us made it. There was only one of us who actually tried it out. But just to everybody else, please go along and make the most of it, because it's a fantastic facility, and so future reports look to be really exciting, and good luck with that.
Thanks, Councillor Whiteside. Do you want to elaborate on who that was that tried it out? Any other comments?
Thank you. Yeah, so as a board member of Angus Alive, I actually just wanted to say thank you to Colin and Ian for stepping into those roles, and it was a real pleasure working with you in that capacity, and so congratulations, and I'm sure we'll be moving forward doing lots of positive stuff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Unfortunately, an invitation wasn't extended to myself. I would have quite liked to have tried that Aquaplat thing and joined that one other member who'd taken part. I think we were in quite good fun, but unfortunately I didn't get an invite.
You can always go as a paid member.
I'm sure we could work on that, and if there are any elected members who would like to come along, please do let us know. We'd be more than happy to get you guys in the wetsuit and get you on the kit and enjoy yourself. So yeah, please let us know, and we could certainly make that happen.
Thank you. Any further comments? No. So we'll just go to the recommendation. It's recommended that this committee reviews and notes the Angus Alive Annual Report 2023-2024. Is that agreed? Thank you. Number 6, the plan for neighbourhoods, Arbroath Board membership and boundary. Jill Patterson, we've got her online.
Thank you, Convener. This paper provides an update on the refresh UK Government plan for neighbourhoods, which was formerly termed the long-term plan for town. The programme meets the previous commitment to Arbroath, which will provide up to 20 million funding over a 10-year period for the town. The programme expands the range of activity from the previous programme to also incorporate health and wellbeing and health as part of the objectives, and housing is in the overall objectives to be considered. The programme and funding requires the submission of a regeneration plan and also an investment plan for the first 4-year period of the fund, which needs to be founded on broad engagement across the town, in particular those who would not normally be heard or experiencing disadvantage. And work is underway to start and progress that detailed engagement. The paper seeks confirmation of the board membership and boundary, which has been provisionally submitted to UK Government in line with the 22nd of April deadline. The chair, supported by the local authority, must ensure that the right people are around the table to reflect the priorities of the particular place, and the prospectus for the programme provides an indication of the groups which should be considered, including community partners, the voluntary sector, faith groups, young people, local business and social enterprise, culture and arts, public agencies and anchor institutions. The membership representation is set out in paragraph 6.7 of the report. The paper also seeks approval of the boundary, which has been amended to include new areas of housing and some areas along the coast. Also submitted to UK Government in provisional format are the governance arrangements for the board, and we've asked for more detail to be considered with the board membership, particularly in the context of the representation before that is formally submitted in its final form to UK Government. It should be noted that any membership and the boundary is still subject to confirmation and feedback from UK Government. Thank you.
Thanks, Jill. Do we have any questions? Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair. It does relate to 6.7 and about the membership breakdown. It says in the papers that a youth board member from the college was engaged but couldn't make it. I just wondered if there was any sort of thoughts on if the representation is wide enough, broad enough, and different groups or perspectives have been sort of have looked at, you know, is there enough youth representation given the change in scope from the original plan?
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. So one of the initial areas of feedback that the board had was the interest from young people to create a youth town board, and some work had been undertaken to select some representatives from the two secondary schools and also from the college. There had been an initial meeting of the Youth Town Board and a willingness from the board to try and engage a member of that board onto the main, effectively the main town board. And a little bit of reluctance just in terms of existing commitments from young people of their ability to commit to that. We have, as a local authority, provided feedback to the board around the need to really start to engage with a much broader cross-representation of young people, and potentially to look at that again in the context of whether those existing members, whilst they might not be able to attend, could there be other groups and networks that may well have an interest in picking that up. It was also something that was flagged with the recent visit from UK government officials, was around the importance of ensuring that young people have a voice on the board.
Thank you. Is that okay, Mark? Any further questions? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Maybe just to ask Jill Patterson if she can confirm, were the councillor representatives on the board, were they agreed at the special meeting at the end of, or early in May? Because I wasn't clear. I think there was an addendum paper put out, but I don't recall that being covered, but just to clarify that.
Thank you, Councillor Duff. I may well deflect to my legal and governance colleagues that my understanding is it was considered in the part 2 of the special meeting, and the two councillor representatives were to continue to be Councillor Cruikshanks and Councillor Speed. And no other nominations were put forward.
That's correct.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
Thank you. Any further questions? No. Any comments? No comments. So we'll move to the recommendations. Recommendations are 1, to note the work undertaken to date and details of the reformed and refreshed plan for Neighbourhoods programme. Number 2, agree the membership of the Arbroath Neighbourhood Board and as set out in section 6.7 and as provisionally submitted to the UK Government on the 22nd of April 2025. Number 3, confirm the boundary for the plan for neighbourhoods for Arbroath as set out in Appendix 1 and agreed by the Arbroath Neighbourhood Board as provisionally submitted to the UK Government on the 22nd April 2025. Note that further work, number 4, note that further work to establish detailed governance will be undertaken with Arbroath Neighbourhood Board to ensure the Council's role as accountable body can be properly fulfilled, with the details of how this will work being reported back to the appropriate committees. And number 5, note that a further report will be provided to the Communities Committee, likely to be November 2025, following community engagement as detailed at 5.6 on the detail of the regeneration plan and first 4 years investment plan, which requires to be submitted to the UK Government for review between spring 2025 and winter 2025. Is that agreed? Yes. Thank you. Move on to number 7. Amendments to rules and regulations for burial grounds. This is to be Graham Daly.
Thank you, Convener. This report seeks approval to make a relatively minor amendment to our existing rules and regulations for burial grounds in relation to the control of dogs. Following complaints of irresponsible behaviour by owners allowing their dogs to roam unchecked in our burial grounds, it was concluded that our existing rules were not specific enough in relation to the control of dogs. It is proposed the rules are amended to say that no person shall cause any dog to be in burial grounds unless it is kept on a short lead. Thank you, Convener.
Thanks, Graham. Do we have any questions? No questions? Any comment? Question?
Thank you, Convener. I think it's unfortunate that we find ourselves in a position where we're having to do this, and it's certainly a decision I wholeheartedly agree with. However, one of the questions that I noticed that I've been asked a few times and has appeared in several other places is how would this be enforced?
Yes, I should highlight first of all that we are talking about a very small minority where this is an issue, and I think we should be made clear that by far most people are very respectful, and our burial grounds are maintained extremely well by our staff, but also by the people who visit them. In terms of how this enforced, I think we should bear in mind that we have many rules for our parks and our burial grounds that have been in place for many years, and I think overall, I think we would agree that these are followed effectively, and in truth, they're mostly self-police are enforced, and what we find is having the rules is a point of reference. So if we have parks officers and members of staff, we are in a position where we could approach, and if anything, we avoid the term enforcement, because what we try and do is maybe awareness education, and what these rules having in place allows us to do that education and awareness, and really enforcement is probably a language that we would avoid, and it really is a last point. In saying all that, there is a mechanism, if need be, which would involve taking forward a civil case and potentially banning someone. I won't go into the detail of that. I don't think it's appropriate in this forum, and it was something that we probably would consult with our legal colleagues. But as I said, thankfully, for the years we've had our rules in place, they have been an effective means for us to educate and make aware our visitors.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Chair. All the members of this committee have received an email. It may have gone into your junk folders, just to make you aware, because that's where I caught it, from a constituent of the conveners, already making the comment that dog filling in cemeteries is not allowed, and that was the basis of the complaints. So I was just wondering, and it sort of follows up from Councillor Gregg there, if we've already identified the issue of dog filling being a problem, where do we see this change actually making a big difference?
I think from the feedback I've received from staff is that by having your dog on a lead, it is more controlled and less likely to roam and perhaps foul, perhaps even without your knowledge. And in general, it may not completely eliminate the issue, but it is something that is more likely to reduce the issue. And I would add that when we did a review, it seemed that other local authorities had taken a similar approach. So on balance, we consider it was the correct thing to at least try this change of rule. And as said in the report, we will update the signage just accordingly. So of course, there's no guarantee that it will make a difference, but on balance, we thought it was a correct thing to do and try.
Thank you, Graham. Any further questions? Councillor Cowdery.
Thank you. It's just off the back of something you said there. You've looked at other local authorities and this is what they do. Have you got a comparison of before and after in terms of a local authority that has gone from the previous approach to this approach, or indeed anywhere where you can say there's evidence that it has definitely made a difference? Thank you.
No, the short answer is the depth of the study research was only to see what other councils have in place. We didn't ask the question have they done any pre and post analysis. I think it's probably unlikely they would have that robustness of data. It was just having a look to see, well, what is the actual policy of other local authorities? And of course, they will differ across the 32 local authorities in Scotland, but there are ones who have taken the same approach as we're proposing.
Any further comments? Questions? No, there was no further questions, were there? Comment. Councillor MacDonald.
Thank you, Convener. Not to let my question assuage my position on this, I do think that the paper is absolutely accurate and right. I don't think we should be walking dogs off a lead in a cemetery, and basic courtesy for that place. And it's not a dog walking space in terms of letting your dog roam free. So yeah, I think this is actually a really good move. It makes just sense to me, and you know, I know it's maybe not been a massive issue, as Graham already said, but I do think in general terms I fully support the paper. I think it's really important that we respect our places where we bury folk, and I think it really is important that we make sure that these places are as clean and tidy as possible for folk who are, you know, going through probably one of the worst days of their lives.
Thank you. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you, Convener. I fully concur with just what Councillor MacDonald has said, and I also agree with what Mr Daly has said. I live in front of the cemetery in Kirriemuir, and I see the activities that go on there, and I think we are very, very fortunate that in Angus our burial grounds are really, really well maintained compared to others in Scotland and in neighbouring local authorities. So I fully support this measure, which I think is long overdue, and I congratulate the officer for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Proctor. Any other comments? Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Convener. Just kind of along the lines, same lines as Councillor Proctor, I actually do take my dog to the cemetery, plus to go in and put flowers on family members and all the rest of it. I wouldn't dream, if my dog fouls, I wouldn't dream of leaving it. It blows my mind that people do walk away and not pick up. And just simply that, the amount of compliments that I get from constituents about how well maintained our cemeteries are, they're stunningly beautiful. And for anybody to be able to walk away without picking up a dog mess is just, yeah, it's just a sad reflection of where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. The Parks Department do make a fantastic job of our cemeteries. One thing that did come to me quite a while ago in regards to the cemeteries, it wasn't about dog fouling, it was more of, it was a woman exercising her dog in the cemetery, throwing a ball about, and I just feel that that's a bit disrespectful as well, but hopefully we can move on. So, Councillor Cheap is online with a comment.
Thanks, Convener. Yeah, I concur with everyone that's just spoken about keeping the dogs on a lead. There's a time and a place for dogs running free, and cemeteries are not the place for that. I'd just like to add as well, we have an issue locally in Shamwell and Canustia, people, believe it or not, using the cemetery as a car park to then get out their cars and walk off the land and exercise their dogs, and then come back and pick up their car in the cemetery and drive off. I've actually put notes on people's cars who are doing that, but some people disregard it regardless and think it's their right to park in the cemetery. And so I'd like to bring it to council's attention. I think that's offensive itself as well.
Thank you, Councillor Cheap. Any further comments? No? We'll just move to the recommendations. Recommendation number 1, to authorise an amendment to Burial Grounds Regulation 15, conduct in relation to the control of dogs as outlined in Section 6, and number 2, to note that the revised burial ground regulations will come into force on the date of their execution. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. We'll move to the last one, number 8. The review of policy and procedures for the management of unauthorised encampments of gypsy travellers in Angus. And to read out this report is Graham.
Thank you, Convener. This report seeks approval for the adoption of a revised and updated policy for the management of unauthorised gypsy traveller encampments in Angus. The current policy approved by committee in 2015 has not been reviewed in the 10 years since. In that time, council structures have changed, making this an appropriate point to revisit and refresh the policy. Research was carried out with other local authorities, and we found no significant difference in policy design or application. A working group involving relevant council services and external partners led the review, and a public consultation was undertaken. This was promoted on our social media channels and directly with the Gypsy Traveller community and relevant advocacy groups. Having considered all feedback and evidence, the revised policy maintains the core principles of our current approach, including the position on potential legal action where appropriate. The committee is asked to note the consultation outcomes and to approve the revised policy as set out in Appendix 1. Finally, Convener, I would like to draw members' attention to a very minor amendment to the wording of the policy that would be made if committee were to approve the policy. The wording is of paragraph 3.1 on page 4 of the policy document, page 80 of the combined papers, and it will be revised as follows. The original sentence states, Angus has always been a popular destination for gypsy travellers, with certain unauthorised areas being regularly populated by encampments. This will be replaced with Angus has a long cultural tradition with gypsy traveller communities, with certain areas historically being associated with unauthorised encampments. This is a very minor change. It does not alter the intent or substance of the policy. However, on balance, we consider it more appropriate wording. I am joined in the chamber by Matt Roberts and Isla Davidson, who led the work of the review group, and I would thank them. It has been a significant piece of work to complete this review.
Thank you very much, Mr Daly. Do we have any questions? Councillor Cowdery.
Thank you very much. Yeah, and thank you for this piece of work. I guess my concern is around the low number of responses to the consultation. I think I've raised that in different subject matters and committees in the past as well. I can see that efforts have been made to reach out in a number of formats. I just wondered perhaps if it could have run for longer. Any suggestions on how more input could have been got would be great. Thank you.
Yes, as laid out in the report, we did make an effort to highlight the lengths we went to try and engage and promote via social media, but the response was the response. In terms of your question, would have an extended period made a difference? That's difficult to say. I think it's something we could maybe take cognizance of and maybe consider in the future. It's we'll have to balance this with completing things in a timely manner and not delaying and meeting, bring these forward to committee. And I would suggest in all likelihood it's unlikely if we delayed it for another week or two, we would have seen much more responses come forward. But as I said, I don't think I could say for definite. All I could do is give a commitment, just take on board your feedback, Councillor Cowdery, and we'll consider that in the future.
Yeah, fire away.
Thank you. Just on the back of that answer, would it have been appropriate or was it done to publicise it via all the community councils, or is that not something you would have done on this occasion, or have I missed it in the paper? Thank you.
Yeah, it went onto our Engage Angus site, and the standard operating procedure is that any consultation that goes onto the Engage Angus site is that the community councils are informed of all consultations that go onto this site. So, as standard, I would say, as opposed to specifically drawing it, this in its isolation.
Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. My question relates to the flow chart on page 90 of the combined papers. In one of the boxes it says, if site of travellers' encampment contravenes the Roads Scotland Act 1984, then Police Scotland will take action to charge. I'm just curious about the controversy of that particular act. Just looking for a bit more detail on that, please.
My personal knowledge of that piece of legislation, I don't think it would be something I would need to research. I don't think my colleagues would be putting them on the spot, I think, in terms of that. I think I'm quite happy to come back to you, Councillor Gregg, just to give you a bit more detail on what that means in practice. I'm assuming it's to do with just prohibiting access along the road, the carriageway. I would assume it's along those lines, but if you would allow me just to raise that with colleagues and we'll get something back to you.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. This hasn't got exactly to do with the management of unauthorised encampments, but it contributes to it. As you know, St Christopher's in Montrose doesn't really have any spaces for passing through travellers. And in fact, we've only got the Teeling place, which is run by Dundee City Council. So in fact, Angus doesn't have any places where people can go to authorised encampments, which makes it very much more difficult to manage these unauthorised ones. I was wondering if there are any plans at all to consider looking at something which might be appropriate for people travelling through.
In terms of the site of Balmuir, and I'll invite my colleague Isla to come in, maybe who is more familiar with the operation of that site. We do have an agreement with Dundee City Council, and I think it makes more sense for councils to collaborate. And it is a site that is actually in Angus, as you're well aware. But in terms of the agreement with Dundee City Council, I would just invite Isla, just maybe could just give you a bit more explanation how we're collaborating, and it does provide a suitable facility for us.
Thank you, Graham. We do have a long-standing agreement with Dundee City Council for the use of Balmuir in terms of the management of unauthorised encampments. It is an area where it's not a particularly popular site. It's not where ones who want to visit Angus potentially want to go to. So we have struggled in the past in encouraging encampments to go there. That and the fact that it can be populated by tenants from the Dundee area as well. So certainly the idea that there isn't a provision that we can point people towards in Angus is a concern. I would point members towards the Improving the Lives of Gypsy Travellers action plan that the Scottish Government has come out with, part of which under section 5 talks about negotiated stopping points. And we're waiting on a lot of feedback at the moment of pilot schemes that have gone on in other local authorities about negotiated stopping sites. And I would suggest maybe once we have that information, that would be a point to look at what the guidance is from the Scottish Government and see if that's something that could be provided in the Angus area. But it is an ongoing concern.
Yeah, on you go, Lynn.
Thanks very much, Isla. I mean, I was very aware of Balmuir not suiting everybody's... and actually, I think it's closed at the moment. It's getting renovated, I think.
We did have families on there in the last couple of weeks, but I understand, renovations are being done to bring it up to a standard at the moment, but I haven't had that clarified from Dundee City colleagues.
That would be very welcome anyway, but it would be good to be looking at the pilots that are ongoing. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Whiteside.
Thank you, Convener. Just a follow-up to that one. Are there any places that might be appropriate? Have we got any places in mind for the negotiated stopping points?
It's come to the table many times in the sort of 20 years that I've been managing unauthorised encampments. There have been areas that have been looked at, but none that came to any kind of fruition, because obviously there are concerns potentially for local communities, etc., about where these areas are. So it's not something that's been looked at in any meaningful way recently. And I think, as I say, waiting for the feedback from the pilots that are ongoing might give us a bit more of a steer on that.
Okay, Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I guess sort of two questions. One, that this policy is very similar to the 2015 procedure, so the changes are relatively small. Am I correct in saying one of those changes relates to economic development, land and business parks? And the second question is one of the situations where the council might consider action if an encampment has been in a location for an excessive period of time? Now, I don't know what that is, but is that something that's now considered which wasn't considered before?
I'll invite Isla for the second point. The first point is, you're correct, is a slight amendment, which was along the lines of previously. It was where land was being sold, where it is now refers to if land's being marketed for sale or for lease. So just a bit of clarifications, relatively minor I would suggest. And then in terms of your other point around whether this was a change of approach in terms of the look and take action depending on the duration of the encampment, again I'll ask Isla to come in.
Yeah, the question of timescales comes up quite a lot in the management, and you know, when we did our research and did confer with colleagues and peers across other local authorities, the writing in of timescales can actually be as unhelpful as it can be helpful, in the same way that clarifying a piece of land as an area that is somewhere an encampment can go, by default can make everywhere else, if you say you can't go here, you then are clarifying that everywhere else you potentially can go. Kind of the same with timescales. If you say you have 2 weeks on this piece of land, then the chances are that the encampment will stay for 2 weeks, whereas they may have moved on of their own volition if we didn't have that in black and white somewhere. So the working group considered the timescales element and said, well, actually the practice that we've got at the moment allows us to apply timescales, because timescales can equal impact for a community. So the way that we do it is looking at it as we have been, but then you could consider timescales if they became excessive.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any comments? No comments? Oh, comment, Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Convener. Probably for Mr Daly, actually. It's nothing to do with the paper that's in front of us. It's just that I would maybe like to see more information on the Angus Council website, because when you look it up under the A to Z, it's just very limited. It says phone access line, that's it. So I'd maybe like to see a little bit more there, if that would be possible. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Scott, that's acknowledged, and I think you have raised that previously, and we were waiting on just completion of this review. We felt it was better timing to wait until we have the revised policy. Once this is approved, I know myself and I have discussed that we'll take that on as an action to try and provide a little bit more substance on our website that gives a bit more clarification in terms of our approach in Angus. So I think, yeah, that is a very reasonable point and something we will take on.
Thanks, that's much appreciated.
Any further comments? Councillor Beattie.
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, just to echo what Councillor Scott said, but also can we also have the policy sent to councils rather than them having to find it on the website? So it's really just to back up what Jill said.
Yes, Councillor B, confirm we'll take that on as an action to email it to the community councils.
Thank you. Any further comments? No further comments. Okay, we'll go to the recommendations. Recommendation number 1, note the outcome of the consultation process and the responses received as detailed in Appendix 2. And number 2, approve the revised and updated policy on the management of unauthorised gypsy traveller encampments as contained in Appendix 1. Is that agreed? Thank you, and that is the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Can you stop the live stream, please?